Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Today is Season 6, Episode 10, and we are looking at a Mod Podge of prospects. As I alluded to on the last episode, I literally told you, I will be doing 2 tight ends and 2 cornerbacks. And all I revealed to you guys other than that was that one was Caleb Farley. So let's get started. I'm just going to hop straight into it. And my first prospect is Brevin Jordan, the tight end from Miami. He's 6'2" and 247 pounds. Jordan has NFL bloodlines, as his dad, Daryl Jordan, was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons in the 9th round of the NFL draft. He was on the top team in Nevada throughout high school, with his team going to the state championship every year he was there and being a major part of them winning in his senior season. He was named a 4-star recruit and the best tight end in the 2018 class. He received offers from LSU, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and a ton more as the best tight end, but ultimately chose Miami because of their history with developing tight ends. I mean, some people know Miami as tight end U, so it kind of made sense for him to go there. As a true freshman, he got to start in 11 of 12 games and garnered ACC second-team all-conference recognition for his 32 catches for 287 yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2019, he had a leg injury that limited him to only 10 starts, but he still put up good enough numbers to be named first-team All-ACC and a Mackey Award finalist for Best Tight End in the nation for his 35 catches for 495 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2020, he only got to start 8 games because a shoulder injury knocked him out of 3 games, but even with less games, he was able to put up the best numbers of his career with 38 receptions for 576 yards and 7 touchdowns. Following his junior season, he declared for the draft. So what's good about him is that he's a willing blocker that finds work and is great on double-team blocks. I thought he did really well. Really, he excelled on double-team blocks, but he handled Amari Gaynor and Josh Griffith, a 232-pound linebacker and 254-pound defensive end from FSU, respectively, really well in one-on-one blocking. I thought that he showed really, really good stuff there. I mean, those guys are pretty big guys, and they're just defensive players, so I thought he did well there. Then what makes him pretty good at blocking is that he keeps his feet moving when blocking. He has some speed, and he converts that speed into power a little bit when blocking and when he's keeping his feet moving. Then he shows some versatility with him lining up in line, in the slot, and as an H-back. Then he plays with quick feet. I mean, the quick feet kind of matches his feet moving in blocking, but he plays with really good quick feet for a tight end. Then he also has above average speed for a tight end. I thought that he looked really fast on tape for a tight end anyway. His play speed was good. I was at least happy with it. I thought overall good in the speed department. Great hands. People said he has a minor drop issue, but I saw literally only one drop on tape. I thought that he was really good with the ball in his hands. Getting the ball in his hands, I should say. Then he is a yards after the catch specialist, as he was asked to run a lot of short routes, and the rare to most offenses, tight end screens. Like, you don't really run tight end screens because it's not as effective as using either a running back or a wide receiver, because wide receivers are typically shiftier, more elusive, and running backs are also that way, and they're used to running through contact, but they used him on tight end screens, and they were pretty effective. Don't get it twisted, though. Jordan had a very complete route tree, running so many routes from different spots. I was impressed with his route tree. I thought that there wasn't a route that he really couldn't run. So what's negative about him? His hand placement on blocks is awful. Like, really, really bad. I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know. Like, it seems like such a simple thing. I never played football at a higher level than middle school, so I don't really know why the hand placement is bad. But he just needs better placement. He needs to make first contact more consistently as a blocker. If he develops in that way where he just gets better hand placement, he's going to be a great blocker at the NFL level. But right now the hand placement is awful, and they're going to take advantage of him. And like, the only time I saw a guy use their hands against Jordan, they beat Jordan. Like, that was the way to do it, is because he's not going to win the hand fighting game. Anyway, he has well below average strength for a tight end. I thought that it wasn't very good in that regard. I thought that he could be better. He could deal with some more muscle mass and strength. He struggles with taking the right angle to blocks on the second level. Then overall, there was an overall struggle with block pickup in open field. I felt like he wasn't very good against the blitzers. He wasn't very good in with guys in space. He's just kind of struggled with that in general. Just and that being said, back to the original thing is that he once on the second level, he really struggled taking the right angle to those kind of blocks. I was impressed though. It's not every tight end gets to the second level to block like that, so I guess I shouldn't take away from him too bad, but it is something to consider. Back to the blitzing, he needs to be better at recognizing the blitz and assignment pickup. I felt like he didn't really understand that kind of stuff. I thought that he really struggled figuring out who his assignment was and let guys get past him at times because he was just a little confused on who he's actually supposed to pick up. Really, this is inline stuff, but yeah. Then he could use some better balance. I felt like after the catch, like it wasn't that arm tackles got him, but he got tripped up really, really easily. I thought, and just in general, just needs better balance, even for the blocks. Then the injuries are of concern. He got injured all throughout his career with different injuries. Nothing that shut him down for like a year, nothing like a major ACL tear, but it's still something to consider that he's never played a full collegiate season. Overall, I am really glad I went back and looked at Brevin Jordan. He was someone that was on my original list. I only ended up doing 3 tight ends originally. He was the 4th, but I abandoned him because I thought I was going to fall behind. Funny enough, now that we're here, John is far behind where I'm at, and I should have just done Jordan then, but I mean, it is what it is. But all in all, his tape was really fun. Jordan is a consensus late second rounder to early third rounder, and when I say early third, the people mocking him typically have him not going any later than the 8th pick in the third round to the Panthers, with a lot more people having him with the Jaguars or Jets early in the round. And I tend to agree. I give Jordan a late second round grade because I like what I saw on tape. He sort of reminds me of a slower Eric Ebron coming out, but with better blocking abilities. Still, his blocking is raw. I liked his aggression when blocking and driving his feet, but to be a blocker at the NFL level, he really needs to work on the hand usage, just in general, like hand fighting and placement. If he works on it and gets better, Jordan is going to be great at the NFL level, especially if he adds on some extra strength, because that's a bit of a concern. But saying this with my chest, I'm saying it. Jordan was a better blocker in college than Pitts, which had me pleasantly surprised. Everything I heard about Jordan was that he was not a good blocker. It's just stuff like that. And I watched his tape, and I was sending videos to John. I'm like, look at this guy. This is a guy that people said can't block. And I'm like, I was impressed with his blocking abilities, honestly. And this is why I say that Pitts isn't complete. It's just Pitts didn't block as good as Jordan. People love Pitts. And that's because Pitts as a receiver is nasty. And Jordan was never going to be what Pitts is as a receiver. But I think as a tight end, Jordan's almost a more complete prospect, which is kind of funny to say. It feels weird. Because, I mean, he has some catching ability, not anything like Pitts, but he also has a way better the blocking ability. But anyway, if I were to rank Jordan with my other tight end prospects, he would have been above Granson, but it's close because Granson has some solid late round value. With him being above Granson, that would put him in first. Jordan would have been my favorite tight end if he was done in that episode. So to develop my opinion on him, I watched his highlights. I watched versus FSU in 2020. I watched versus UNC in 2020. I watched versus Louisville in 2020, and I watched versus Duke in 2020. That brings me to my next prospect, and you guys knew I was doing him. I'm doing Caleb Farley. He's a cornerback from Virginia Tech. He is 6'2" and 197 pounds, and he opted out in 2020, so it's something to consider. He came out of high school in North Carolina as a quarterback, but drew little interest at that position. However, he was super athletic, and Virginia Tech approached him about switching to wide receiver, which he agreed and committed to them. Before the 2017 season had started, Farley tore his ACL, knocking him out for the entire season. In the offseason, he was actually changed position again, this time to corner, and he agreed yet again. As a redshirt freshman, he was able to start 12 of 13 games at corner and made 36 tackles, had 2 interceptions, and broke up 7 passes. In 2019, he was a pass breakup machine, leading his entire conference with 16 passes defense, even after missing the team's last 2 games because of an injury. He also put up 20 tackles and 4 picks through the 11 games he did start in. Following the 2019 season, he opted out to protect his father and then got back surgery in March of 2021 that kept him from being able to work out at Virginia Tech's Pro Day. Still, though, as a redshirt junior, Farley declared for the draft. So what's good about him is he's a rare combination of size and speed for a corner. I mean, standing at 6'2" and looking as fast as he is, we don't really know we don't even have a pro day time. Not knowing the time, it's just he looks fast, and that's my opinion. I think that he's really fast for a corner, especially of his size. Then he has plenty of experience covering all kinds of targets. I mean all kinds. Watching 2019 tape is always interesting, because you kind of get to go back and see guys that got into the NFL, and that includes bigger targets like tight end Cole Kmet and Chase Claypool. I watched his Notre Dame game, as you could probably tell, and it was interesting seeing him against Chase Claypool. I felt like that was a good tell for me. I didn't watch much Cole Kmet for the Bears this year. I don't think he really played that much with the Bears, if I'm being honest with you. I know he at least got some catches, but I don't really know with that. But it was still interesting. Because I looked at Cole Kmet coming out, so I kind of had an opinion on Kmet on how he would be. So, but point being, I watched Caleb Farley versus bigger targets because of his size, and he can handle them. He had solid block shedding abilities versus wide receivers. More like adequate, I'd say. I wasn't the best block shedding abilities, but wasn't the worst either. But it was definitely serviceable. I think that he'll be okay at that at the next level. He was excellent at breaking up passes. I mean, you don't lead the conference at breaking up passes for nothing. He was really good at getting in there and disrupting the ball, disrupting the pass, being physical at the catch point. But then his tackling seemed solid. I thought he did a good job taking down DJ Dallas in one-on-one in the Miami game. He did give up the 2-point on the one-on-one, but it was close. He almost had DJ Dallas there. But overall, I mean, for a cornerback going up against a running back in one-on-one, I thought he did well. Now, going to the negatives, the injuries are definitely a concern, with another back surgery a month ago today, I believe. Because today, as I'm recording this, it just got to it. It's 12:01 a.m. on April 23rd. I'm pretty sure he got his back surgery on March 23rd. So, it's putting his availability for camp in question. I feel like he said that it was minor. So there's that, but I just don't know with that. It's not just that though. He obviously had the ACL tear in 2017. He got injured the next year a little bit. I mean, it's just injury after injury with him, and that's got to be something to be concerned about. And they've been major. The ACL tear is major. The back stuff is major because he needed 2 surgeries for it. He could call it minor all he wants, but the reason why he's falling down draft boards, and this is why I went back to him. I thought that he was the consensus number 1 at the time when I looked at Surtain and J.C. Horn, but now he seems like the consensus number 3. Who knows when he'll go, but regardless, the injury is of concern. Then he is very grabby and had too much contact made in 2019. I felt like personally the rest of him is quite a few calls on tape. On the tape I saw, the little tape. I just didn't. I think it's not going to work at the NFL level. I think he's going to get called more. Then overall, Chase Claypool won against him without top end speed. His coverage isn't perfect, but this is expected for a guy that's been a cornerback for 24 games. So his coverage wasn't perfect. And Chase Claypool without the top end speed. Chase Claypool has size. We know. We're Steelers fans. We know who Chase Claypool is now, but it's still just worrisome that overall Chase Claypool was able to beat him. Chase Claypool wasn't the top wide receiver of his class. Maybe should have been in the first round now that it's all played out and we know, okay, well, Justin Jefferson's really good. Chase Claypool is really good. T. Higgins looks really solid. There's someone I'm forgetting that's even better. Not better than Justin Jefferson, but someone that should be up there. But regardless, it's still not great to see. It just... For a shutdown corner, he's a guy that was called shutdown. I did not get shut down. He got targeted a lot for a guy considering a shutdown corner and allowed him to make all those pass breaks. I mean, you don't make those pass breakups not getting targeted. I think that calling Farley a shutdown corner is very off base. I think that that's not what he is. I feel I'm gonna hold on to what I'm about to say. I'm gonna keep it because I'm gonna say it later in the overall, but shutdown corner is not the right way to describe Farley. Then he gave up 14 points in just 2 games I watched. 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. Again, unexpected for a guy named a quote-unquote shutdown corner. So overall, I'm going to keep it real. I wanted way more tape from him. And I got to say, the cornerback tape this year was really tough to find. A bit disappointed on that, but and even then, like, so what I've been doing, right? If I can't find a prospect's tape, I will go say, okay, he's on defense. Let me go look up for first Virginia Tech defense in 2020. They didn't even have that. No, there was no 2019. There was no 2019 Virginia Tech defense games where like it was on YouTube just for me to watch. So I wasn't even able to watch it. I had to watch someone just break down the games that he had on YouTube. So that was unfortunate. But anyway, in the little I saw, Farley was extremely raw in 2019, and that was 2 years ago, before 2 surgeries. Continuing to keep it buck with you, I'm not even going to wait and rank him. He's going to be the bottom 5 of all my prospects from every position, almost guaranteed, this year. Way too much risk in this pick, even if he falls into the second round. Between the tape not being very good, the injuries, and not seeing anything from 2020 to know how he would have stood up, plus likely not being in football shape after needing 2 surgeries since he last played, and that being a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, Steelers need to stay away. I thought that maybe Farley would be a guy that would be a blessing to drop that far. He's not. There's a reason he's dropping, and he needs to drop. I give Farley a late 3rd round grade, and if it's not obvious, if I looked at him in the corner episode, he would have ranked last. A team that is drafting him is hoping he becomes Marcus Peters, because that's almost exactly what I felt like watching him. He was a boomer bust, not a shutdown. Boomer bust. That is the word you're expecting. Marcus Peters, Steven Nelson when he was with the Chiefs, that kind of cornerback, because it's just what I felt like watching him. He's gonna jump a few balls and get some picks and make plays that way, but the coverage is questionable. He's gonna give up points too. He needs to be put in a system that's going to develop him right, and that's not Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a cornerback developing place. We got Cameron Sutton, who's homegrown, but the track record just isn't good. It's not good, so Caleb Farley needs to stay far away from Pittsburgh. If we get him in the 3rd round, can't be mad about it. I really, really can't. It addresses a position of need. Farley would at that point be low risk, pretty high reward, because you're hoping he develops some more, because that's what people said. Like, this is what confused me. I was reading, and like people are like, yeah, it's reasonable to believe that he develops more, but he's super raw right now. I'm like, yeah, he's super raw. Like, and he hasn't played for 2 years. Like, this, like, it almost blew my mind. Like, knowing how, like, people were ranking Farley before this, Farley was, like, a top 10 pick before that second surgery. And then people were like, then he started falling down draft boards. And to me, like, even without the surgeries, I still think I give him, like, a 2nd round grade, early 2nd, but, like, I still wouldn't touch him in the 1st. I thought J.C. Horn would be a bad 1st rounder. I was like, oh wow, I really hope the Steelers don't take him. But I will take J.C. Horn any day of the week over Caleb Farley at 24. It wouldn't make sense. I would take Greg Newsome at 24. I would take Eric Stokes probably at 24. I didn't watch Stokes' tape, so I heard Stokes is already Burns, but it's just, even if Stokes is already Burns, I don't have to be worried about the injury history as much. Just overall, stay away from Farley. And I know this is controversial. I know people are listening to me right now like, this man is crazy. Probably am. I probably read into this too much. I probably didn't get to see enough tape. Probably just watched the worst games he had, but it just wasn't good. And that being said, I watched his highlights. I watched versus Notre Dame in 2019 and versus Miami in 2019. I tried to watch more. I really did. I wanted to see more, but that's all I could come up with. That brings me to my next prospect, and that's Diamante Lenoir. I love that name. I honestly, when I first saw it, I thought it was Diamante Lenoir, which I thought was even sicker, and that's kind of why I chose him. He's a cornerback from Oregon. He's 5'10" and 199 pounds. And he was one of the most bizarre players coming out of high school. He was a 4-star recruit with offers everywhere for several positions, as he played running back everywhere on the defensive side. And then in his senior season, and quarterback to his resume, I am not talking about Wildcat. He threw for nearly 600 yards and 6 touchdowns, being named the #1 athlete in the nation. It came down to 3 places for him: Oregon, Mississippi State, and Nebraska. And while he decommitted from Oregon after a coaching change, he ultimately decided to ride with them anyway. He played in all 13 games as a backup in his true freshman season, but was still able to put up 25 tackles, 1.5 for a loss, an interception, and 5 pass breakups. In 2019, Lenoir, sorry, if I say Lenoir, because my stupid brain wants it to be Lenoir, yell at me in the comment section. It's Lenoir. He started in 2018. Lenoir started all 13 games for Oregon and put up 52 tackles, 3 picks, and 9 pass breakups. In 2019, he was named an honorable mention All-Conference pick for his 47 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, an interception, and 7 pass breakups. Going into 2020, he originally opted out, but pivoted and went on to garner second-team All-Pac-12 honors for 30 tackles and a pick through 7 starts. Following his senior season, he declared for the draft. Before I get started, though, shout out to Diamante for wearing long sleeves. It allowed me to find him so easy when which I appreciate with not a lot of individual cornerback tape. As I complained about earlier, cornerback tape was really tough. However, compared to Farley, there was actually Oregon defense tape in 2020. And normally, if you're just looking at the defense, it's really hard to pick out where a player is, and they might be off the field, which makes it even harder. Super easy with Diamante. He was one of 2 players that wore long sleeves. In one of the games, he was the only one. So shout out to him for having a distinguishing feature. I got to watch probably more tape than other prospects. I got to watch their defensive tape. But what's really good about him is he's a willing tackler that moves over to help his guys in support. He's not afraid to get in there and get physical and tackle guys. He's willing to make those tackles. And that being said, he's also one of the best tackling corners I've ever seen coming out. I don't say that lightly. Like I mean it. Like he is. I might be forgetting someone. I wanted to say he's number 1. I might be forgetting someone that I said was a really good tackling corner. I just forgot about them. But his tackling, I will say, seems like it is the best. If he is not the best, he's top 3, 100%. There's not 4 guys that are in front of him. There's no chance because it was just so good. And then, holy positional versatility. He honestly had a really strong skill set that if he wanted to put on a little weight, he could make it as a safety. As he lined up there in college at times, he lined up as a safety more than like a handful. He's just really, really a jack of all trades, and he lined up everywhere. And if he wanted to put even on more weight, he could be an inside linebacker the way he moves around the field. I was very, very... He is a bizarre cornerback prospect. Do you know who he reminds me of in the reverse way? He reminds me of Justin Hollins. I looked at Justin Hollins as an edge prospect and then suggested that he move not to safety but to corner, and it's kind of the opposite here. I'm not suggesting Lenoir switch because Lenoir is actually a really good cornerback, at least I felt, but he has positional versatility where he doesn't just have to stay at cornerback. He could play there. And what's even crazier is you might be wondering, like, oh, so he's probably like a slot corner. He's an outside corner. Outside, like, he's not like a nickel corner. He played on the outside when he was predominantly, like, lined up at corner. So this was all interesting to me. He's a very unique prospect, and, like, coming out of high school like that, like, it's just all around very unique. Again, just lined up everywhere. Outside, on the line, just very versatile. That being said, he played in a very complicated scheme and did well. I mean, you don't move around the field the way he does and not play in a complicated scheme. I mean, he was all over the field in man and zone sometimes, mostly zone. But, and that bodes well for NFL schemes. I feel like he could pick it up. He has great acceleration with adequate play speed overall. I thought that was really good for him. And then he had really solid coverage. I thought he did well in the games I watched. Then he has long arms, especially considering he's under 6 foot. I felt like his arms were weirdly long for a guy like his size. I felt like he had the arms of a guy that was 6 foot. I mean, he's 5'10". He's not that far off. But he had really long arms. Then going to the negative side of stuff, he plays a little stiff. He needs to loosen up his hips and have better change of direction speed. I think that was like the biggest knock on him. I felt like when he was turning his hips, he was not going as fast and he lost speed. So guys kind of getting in and out routes could beat him a little easier. And that being said, on the in routes, he gave up the inside a little bit too easily at times. He was more worried about guarding the sidelines, which could be a good thing, but he gave up the inside a little bit too easy. Then he needs to be better at the catch point, like the game against Cal where he gave up a 50-50 ball when he was in perfect position. All in all, just not very good on combative catches as a whole. I thought that he could be better for a guy with his long arms. I felt like I wanted to get him in there better and breaking it up more, but it do be like that sometimes. I'm really not sure why, though, because he's pretty physical. Other than that, I'm pretty sure I called him physical in my positives, but he's just not very good at breaking up passes, which was interesting. Then he struggled against comeback routes on the sideline. I felt like those are the ones that got him the most, other than in routes, was that the curls and I don't know if it's called a curl. Like it's when you run straight but you come back specifically to the sideline. It's not just like you stop and turn around. But those were really tough for him to defend. I thought, which I feel like it's a really tough route for most cornerbacks to defend. But yeah. Then he felt mostly on his own and gave up the first touchdown against USC because of it. That was tough. I'm talking. I said earlier I think on last episode that I don't really focus on one play, but that was a really bad play. He fell on his own, like he wasn't really touched, and then it's what gave USC their touchdown in the championship game, the Pac-12 championship game, I should say. Then he did a bad job in filling on goal line plays. It could limit how he actually plays, if he could actually play at inside linebacker, even if he put on weight. I really felt like, because he was, interestingly enough, on the field for a lot more goal line plays than I was expecting, but he just still didn't do a very good job on them. I think that he probably should have been taken off for more heavy forces. But then Oregon's pass rush forced opposing quarterbacks had to get rid of the ball rather quickly. So there is the sense here, there's like, it could be the Steelers' problem. How good are the Steelers' cornerbacks when their pass rush is so good that it hits the quarterback so quickly? Or is both contributing? In this case, I think that the edge rushers were very, very fast for Oregon. I mean, watching that Pac-12 championship game, Slovis was getting his butt kicked. Him and Elijah Vera Tucker. Elijah Vera Tucker is a guy that's considered a high, like, first round pick this year, and he was getting destroyed in this game. I mean, he got beat for a sack, and I was watching this game, I was like, yeesh. I was like, both of these guys are guys that I kind of heard about, and I'm like, they're not doing good here. So, that being said, overall, Lenoir has been mocked mostly in the 5th and 6th rounds, with an increasing number of 7th round mocks in the last 2 weeks after just an average pro day. There were 2 people who mocked him in the 4th round, and funny enough, it was to the Jaguars and Jets, who are obviously the top of the round. So I found it funny that there were no more than that. The only ones that had him going that high had him going extremely high, but still. I personally give Lenoir a 3rd round grade. I'm obviously higher on him by a lot, especially compared to most people, but I really liked his tape. I felt like his coverage was really good. I just really fell in love with his tackling abilities. I see excellent special teams potential in him to stick around on a team, and then after a little bit of development, crack the defensive side of things. And it could happen earlier. I really thought his versatility was enticing too. He could be a solid Mike Hilton replacement, honestly. If I were to rank him amongst the corners, I would have had him second only to Surtain, as I truly believe Surtain is destined to be a Pro Bowl corner almost immediately. But the value with Lenoir, if he fell to the Steelers in the 6th, that would be amazing. I really think that he's worth a 3rd round pick. I gave him a 3rd round grade. I would like, if he goes earlier than most people think, I wouldn't be mad about it. I wouldn't be shocked. So to develop my opinion, I watched his 2019 highlights. I watched versus Iowa State in 2020. I watched the USC offense versus Oregon defense in 2020 in the Pac-12 championship. Then I watched the Cal offense versus Oregon defense. And that brings me to my last prospect, and that is Tommy Tremble. He is a tight end from Notre Dame. He is 6'3" and 241 pounds. He's another prospect with NFL bloodlines, with his father, Greg Tremble, winning Super Bowl 30 as a member of the Cowboys in his lone season in the NFL. Tough, because that happened against the Steelers, but yes, his dad is a Super Bowl winning tight end that only played for 1 year. In high school, Tremble wanted to play both sides of the ball, but his original high school wouldn't let him for his senior season, so he transferred, but unfortunately dislocated his ankle after just the 2nd game of the season. Still, though, he was considered a 3-star recruit and got offers from a couple Power 5 schools, with it coming down to Georgia, where his father played, and his home state, or Notre Dame. Ultimately, obviously, he chose Notre Dame, which With how Georgia plays tight ends, I think he made the right choice. Georgia just doesn't use tight ends in their offensive system. They don't target them at all. So I personally think he made the right choice. But he didn't see playing time immediately, being part of the scout team in 2018, and that kind of makes sense because they had Cole Kmet and Alize Mack, both prospects I looked at. And then in 2019, he got to make 7 starts through 13 games and played behind Cole Kmet, even though he started most of the games, but that's because they used 2 tight end sets and stuff. But he still had 16 catches for 183 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then in 20, even with Kmet gone, he still wasn't the starter, with Michael Mayer coming in on the scene quickly. Still, though, he played in 12 games and made 10 starts, making 19 catches for 218 yards and having a rush go for 4 yards. With Michael Mayer likely to continue eating into his playing time, he decided to forego his senior season and declare for the draft. So what's good about him is he likely is the best blocking tight end in this class with tons of experience. I mean, he was blocking almost every play he was on the field because that's what he was good at. And his specialty was motion blocks. Once he got some speed, he was a monster turning that into power. I mean, he really ran over guys. They really liked using him on one side. So they'd line him up in line or just slightly behind the line on one side, and they'd have him motion and run to the other side and be the lead blocker on that. And that really worked well for him. He was really good at that. He has really good hand placement for those kind of blocks. And I was just overall happy with that. Then he has excellent mirroring abilities too. I mean, if he stays put in line, he can mirror guys pretty well. I thought that he did a good job in that regard. I mean, he was moved around a lot, so he didn't really get the most experience just kind of standing there and blocking. But from what I did see of that, I thought he was pretty good at it, honestly. I think that he could handle most blocks. Again, I think this is the best blocker in this draft class. I didn't see everyone, of course, but he is likely going to be the best one. I can't really see many people getting much better. Then he has tons of experience at fullback and H-back. I mean, he came out of the field from several spots. Again, played inline. Really didn't get split out much, but inline, H-back, fullback, you name it, he was kind of there. He could be a lead blocker very easily for a team. I mean, it's pretty... I wouldn't be surprised if a team did make him a fullback / tight end at the NFL level. Then he has more than adequate speed for a tight end. He is above average speed, so I was happy with that. His pro day was I guess I won't say really good. I thought it was pretty good overall. He showed a lot of athletic stuff there, so that's good. Then he didn't get the most targets, but he made some impressive grabs on the few targets he got. He's physical as hell. He's as physical as it gets. He's aggressive. He's a nasty blocker, so that's something to consider as well. And then the last thing is he has good initial burst off the snap, and when he's blocking, he's gonna get the initial contact. I like that as well. So what's not good about him is that he's still not a perfect blocker. He missed a few on tape, so that's something to consider. Doesn't take the best angles all the time. And there was one play, it was just confusing. I didn't really know what actually happened on the play. I'm pretty sure it was against Clemson, where he just kind of ran around the guy who was supposed to block. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, just not perfect yet. Then he's extremely slow on his break as a route runner. It just felt sluggish and not crisp. And he really didn't play that much. I was never the guy for Notre Dame. They always had a better tight end. I mean, it was always Cole Kmet, and then it was Michael Mayer this year. It's just never the premier guy, and he came off the field a lot of the time when they were down by a lot. I mean, Notre Dame didn't really lose much when he was there because when Ian Book was there, it's 30-5. But I mean, I watched 2 of the losses, right? Two of those 5 losses that Ian Book got against Clemson and Alabama. And he was off the field relatively early. I mean, they don't want him for passing sets, which is understandable because they have Michael Mayer, and Michael Mayer is being described as a baby Gronk, which I feel like gets overused all the time. But regardless, Michael Mayer did seem really good. But, like, you still want to see him play a little bit. I don't know. They almost played him not at all after that. Then he doesn't really create separation as a route runner. I thought that with his speed, he should have done maybe a little bit better as a tight end, but maybe it was just his matchups. I'm not really sure. So overall, Tremble's a guy who shot up mock draft boards as of late after people stopped focusing on the stats and more about his actual tape, going from virtually a 7th-round pick to undrafted free agent in people's eyes to a 3rd or 4th rounder. I personally give him a 4th-round grade. I think most people are looking for the next George Kittle and maybe slightly overrating Tremble because of it. But he lies somewhere between Kittle and Foster Moreau, the Raiders tight end behind Darren Waller, who I looked at when he was coming out of LSU. I think he's better than Foster Moreau, if I'm being honest. If you guys remember, I wasn't really the biggest fan of Moreau because Moreau didn't produce at all. He had 200 yards in all his years. I mean, you look at Tremble, and Tremble's done better than that. At least I feel like. I mean, I guess it's kind of close. I guess, yeah. He had 16 catches for 183 yards one year, and then 19 catches for 200. Okay. But I feel like Tremble was just better. I feel like Tremble's better than Moreau, if I'm being honest with you. He's also been compared to Drew Sample, who I also looked at, but from other people, but I don't really see that one. Sample is much better through the air, in my opinion. If I were to rank Tremble with my other tight end prospects, I'd put him below Granson, which would put him in 3rd after Brevin Jordan, Granson, then him. Just because I think the 3rd round would be a little bit too rich for him, but it wouldn't be a bad pick at all for trying to improve the run game this year. So that's what I'm thinking, right? If we took Tommy Tremble in the 3rd round as a reach, how mad could I be? Where the Steelers are committed to improving the run game, right? And Tommy Tremble is how you do that. Tommy Tremble is you're getting a blocking tight end that you're hoping develops into something better, where he could be like a George Kittle or something like that. And if he could block, you are committing to improving that run game. And you have someone behind Eric Ebron that can actually block, because Eric Ebron can't block. Tremble immediately comes in as a better blocker than Ebron, which is funny. But, yeah. So I don't think it would be a bad pick if we reach on him in the 3rd round. I just think that overall, people are overvaluing because they're like, oh, well, now we need to get the next Kittle because look what Kittle was. Excuse me. Look what Kittle was like. Because Kittle was extremely athletic. But Tommy Tremble is kind of close, and I think also taller slightly. But yeah. Overall, I would love Tremble in the 4th, if I'm being honest. If he's taken in the 3rd, I think good for the team. I think he's going to improve their running game. For a team that needs the help in the running game, for sure. I wouldn't be mad if Steelers did it, but I think he's worth the 4th round. That being said, to develop my opinion on him, I watch his highlights. I watched versus Boston College in 2020. I watched versus Duke in 2020. I watched Notre Dame offense versus Clemson defense in 2020. I watched Notre Dame offense versus Alabama defense in 2020. And that wraps up the Mod Podge episode of Season 6, Episode 10 of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Then if you want to check us out on social media, they'll all be down in the description below. And then everybody, have a good night. Go Steelers.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.